Welcome back, Patriots. Welcome to Sons of Liberty, 1773. So I'm reading an article today, and it's no surprise. The Central Intelligence Agency that does, mayhem around the world, mess with, elections. They create chaos. I don't remember ever voting for anybody on one of these ABC agencies, but, they're all henchmen for the deep state. So we're learning that the CIA is directing sabotage in Russia. So, they seem hell-bent on leading us into World War III. Let me share this article. Actually, I got a couple to share with you here, or a few. So, Special Forces Insider, the CIA, is directing sabotage attacks inside the Russian territory. The CIA has been using a European NATO country's intelligence service to conduct sabotage attacks inside Russia since the February invasion of Ukraine, investigative journalist Jack Murphy reported on Saturday, citing unnamed former U.S. intelligence and military officials. Reports said that no U.S. personnel are on the ground in Russia, but that the operatives are being directed by the CIA. The U.S. is using an allies intelligence service to add an extra layer of plausible deniability, and a former U.S. Special Operations officer told Murphy that layer was a major factor in President Biden signing off on the attacks. So the Biden regime is in on it. Here is a fire at the Russian Aerospace Forces Central Scientific Research Institute in Tver in April. So they've been doing this for a while, and, it'll be tit for tat, because if we're going to do this stuff in Russia, Russia is going to do it in America, and maybe that explains some of the attacks on our recent attacks on our infrastructure. Lavrov says, this over at antiwar.com, says Pentagon threatening decapitation strike against Putin. Anonymous U.S. military sources told Newsweek in September that killing Putin was an option being considered. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Tuesday said that statements made to the media by anonymous Pentagon officials amount to threats against Russian President Vladimir Putin's life. There are some anonymous officials from the Pentagon who have actually enunciated threats to deliver a decapitating strike on the Kremlin, which is in fact an assassination threat against the Russian president, Lavrov said, according to the Russian news agency TASS. That's pretty frightening. And look at Putin approves like Putin's approval rating's like in the 70%. The Russian people love him. So if somebody came over and killed one of our presidents that we beloved, a foreign nation, and they said they were going to do it, and then it happened, I think that's a recipe between nuclear nations for, World War III, for critical, mass, reaching critical mass. Kremlin, this is at Zero Hedge. Kremlin says U.S. is main beneficiary of hotter Ukraine war. Russian former minister Sergei Lavrov, in remarks published Monday, alleged that the United States is fueling escalation in Ukraine as the U.S. is the war's main beneficiary. He said, it is Washington and NATO that turned Ukraine into a global crisis. I would definitely say America had their hand deep in this mess. By seeking to bleed Russia and achieve Western victory on the battlefield, the actions of countries of the collective West and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who is controlled by them, confirm the global nature of the Ukraine crisis, Lavrov said in a fresh interview with the state-run TASS news agency. It is no secret the strategic goal of the U.S. and its NATO allies is victory over Russia on the battlefield as a mechanism for significantly weakening or even destroying our country. So Russia feels very threatened, folks, and now we're learning the CIA is directing sabotage inside their borders. This is at Zero Hedge as well. Ukraine wants UN-backed peace deal with Russia. Well, that sounds good, doesn't it? However, they have a condition. The top Ukrainian officials said on Monday that the country wants a NATO or a United Nations backed peace summit to end the war with Russia by February of 2023, but only if Moscow faces a war crimes tribunal in an international court first. So that really is no peace deal. He's offering nothing there. So they've created this war. The Democrats and the globalist. So now breaking Zelensky. So we made this war, right, America? Not us, but the nefarious people that have the levers of power right now. The illegitimate regime. So they're leading us to war. They've created this crisis in Ukraine. They're leading us to World War III. Ukraine is blowing all the hell because of these jerks. And so now breaking, Zelensky, and this is at Postmillennial, Zelensky announces he is planning to join World Economic Forum in Davos to sign new post-war loans with BlackRock. We all know who BlackRock is, right? Part of the fascist uniparty corporate marriage, that is bringing tyranny to America. So we go over there, we create a situation, we blow their country, we level the place. I mean, a lot of the cities look like Berlin after the carpet bombing of World War II. Vladimir Zelensky and Larry Fink agree to focus in the near term on coordinating the efforts of all potential investors and participants in the reconstruction of our country, channeling investment into the most relevant and impactful sectors of the Ukrainian economy. So, our infrastructure in this country is falling apart. We have border issues. I mean, we've got lots of problems here. People are starving. 60% of America is living hand to mouth. And they just gave them, in total now it's like $110 billion to Ukraine. And now we're going to start putting together all the money to rebuild the cities that we caused to get blown up. This country is spiraling into the abyss, folks. If we don't stop this, what's left of America isn't going to survive much longer. This is at Zero Hedge. Make sure you guys can see all this one. You can. Siberia, the wars and rumors of wars we're in, right? Siberia puts troops on full combat readiness as main Kosovo border crossing shut. Siberian officials announced this week that the National Army has been put on the highest possible level of alert as border tensions with breakaway Kosovo are soaring to boiling point, and after roadblocks were set by the Serbian minority living within Kosovo, which they don't recognize as legitimate state. Serbia, that is. Iran threatens to raze Tel Aviv to the ground if Israel strikes nuclear sites. This is at Gateway Pundit. Iran state broadcaster has aired a video describing what it claims would be the response to an Israeli strike on Iran's nuclear sites, warning that Israel's targets would be destroyed within minutes and that the follow-up wave of rocket attacks would raze Tel Aviv. And what's going on there? Benjamin Netanyahu is back in control now, and I actually like the man. He doesn't put up with any BS. He knows that the Iranians, when they say we're going to blow Israel off the face of the map, that they literally mean that. So they will never allow Iran to have nuclear weapons, okay? Iran now is at like 90%, what's the word I'm looking for? 90% weapons grade uranium, or their centrifuges, they're producing. Israel is more likely going to bomb these sites. Their whole survival of their country depends on Iran never having nuclear weapons. So I expect that's coming. And I believe Iran will make good on their promises as well. And there's going to, the Middle East is always a powder keg ready to go off, right? There's always missiles going back and forth at some point somewhere in the Middle East during the week. But that is definitely something to keep an eye on. And then one more, the wokeness we're living in, right? Erasing history. Orwell. I mean, we're seeing 1984. The totalitarian state. They control the narrative. They flush down the memory hole, what they don't want people to know. They push lies as truth, and the truth is lies. So feds force West Point to remove General Robert E. Lee portrait. As a response to a federal order by the Department of Defense, West Point is starting to remove all Confederate statues and portraits from its campus. And you did hear the military now needs to get rid of the pronouns, yes, ma'am, ma'am, sir, yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, because somehow that is racist or some stupid, idiotic, woke stuff. West Point Superintendent Lieutenant General Steve Gillen broke the news and stated during the holiday break, we will begin a multi-phase process in accordance with the Department of Defense directives to remove, rename, and modify assets and real property at the United States Military Academy and West Point installation that commemorate and memorialize the Confederacy or those who voluntarily served with the Confederacy. One of the most notable Confederate portraits that will be removed is General Robert E. Lee's portrait. Besides Lee's portrait, a stone image of him along with several plaques of his likeness will also be removed. Most people only know Robert E. Lee as the general of the Confederate Army, but before choosing to side with the Confederacy, he served 32 years in the U.S. military, and he was a strategic strategist, military strategist, brilliant. And this is a school to teach military warfare. Lee was a brilliant person. Of course you want to study Lee. Lee started off his military career by being a top graduate at West Point and made a name for himself during the Mexican-American War, where at one point he even worked side by side with General Ulysses S. Grant. After the Mexican-American War, Lee was later named as a superintendent of West Point. In the years leading up to the Civil War, Lee condemned any state seceding from the Union and stated they were betraying the founding fathers. Bet you folks didn't know that, most people. Advisor to President Lincoln, Union Army General Winfield Scott even requested Robert E. Lee to be the new general of the Union Army. Lee, however, would deny the opportunity and would eventually resign from the U.S. military in order to join forces with the Confederate Army shortly after Virginia seceded from the Union. His reason was he did not want to betray his native state of Virginia. But I'm against all this, folks. Regardless of what you think of General Lee, it's our history. We want to embrace it. The good history and the bad history of America. I'm against erasing history in any form or fashion. I believe in the truth, and there's always more to the story than they let on. Give me your thoughts on that in the comments down below. But if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Comment and share, and it'll help push this content out to more people. And if you're not sleeping good, go over to mypillow.com. They're running some New Year's, Mike Lindell's running some great sales for New Year's Day. And just use promo code SOL1773. SOL1773. I will see you later, Patriots. Keep moving forward. Remember, we never surrender, we never retreat.